What is up, YouTube? Today we are going over a quick recap of week 1 of college football and a look ahead to week 2. So before we dive in to week 2 of college football, let's just take a quick minute to look back at what happened last weekend. Everybody knows the big stories, right? Alabama goes down to Florida State, a huge surprise. Though when we look back, maybe it's not such a huge surprise, right? Alabama's lost now 5 of their last 10. 4 of those losses coming to teams who appeared to not be in great situations. Vanderbilt, Michigan last year, Oklahoma last year, and now Florida State this year coming off a 2-10 season. The Ohio State defense looking very, very good. Arch missing a lot of throws. And then we had that LSU defense looking extremely, extremely legit. Now, as we leave week 1, a few things I don't think enough people are talking about, a few things you might have missed over the weekend. Boise State does not look great without Ashton Jeanty. If you're following me along on the socials, I put out on Thursday night, I said, hey, if Boise State loses or looks like they are about to lose, if you have another G5 team that you really like to go make the playoffs, now would be the time to bet it. I think the sports books are going to be sleeping a little bit. If Boise State goes down, and those prices are not going to change. So I ended up playing both Navy and Liberty. I strongly believe that one of them will end up making the playoffs. So I was able to get Navy at plus 1,100. They were plus 1,100 before that game kicked off. And I was able to get Liberty at plus 1,125. They were plus 1,125 before that game kicked off. And those numbers did not move. So if you have a G5 team you like, I really hope you were able to get in on that before those numbers moved. Tennessee looks like they won that quarterback swap. Joey Aguilar was doing things that Nico couldn't do last year, like push the ball down the field effectively. That Tennessee offense was humming, scored 45 points. Yes, it was against Syracuse, but it was on the road, and they looked good. You have to admit that Tennessee offense looked good, and it looked more like a Josh Heupel offense that we had seen last year. Nico, on the other hand, goes out to UCLA, and they get absolutely stomped by Utah. A lot of people really liked Utah coming into the season. I was not necessarily a believer. I don't know that I'm necessarily a believer after stomping UCLA. UCLA seems kind of on the way down. Nico does not seem like the answer at quarterback. It just makes you wonder how good of a coach is Josh Heupel, where he can take Joey Aguilar and he looks like what he looked like for Tennessee on Saturday. And then on the flip side, Nico looked good at times for Heupel at Tennessee, but then Nico goes to another school in UCLA, and he did not raise the level of play on his team. Virginia is going to be a sneaky team this year. This is a game probably very few people were watching or kept an eye on. I did. I'm a big Group of 5 fan, so the Virginia quarterback used to be the quarterback at North Texas. Comes to Virginia. So North Texas the last couple of years have been putting up just monster offensive numbers. So he goes to Virginia, and they put it on Coastal Carolina. And that is not something that I saw coming. I thought that game would be a little bit closer, right? That even the spread was only 13.5, which is pretty tight for G5 versus Power 4 kind of a matchup. But Virginia was able to put it on them. They looked really good. I think they can be sneaky. They're probably going to bite somebody with that offense because that quarterback seems legit. He seemed to raise the level of play on Virginia. And then on that note, I think the ACC overall looks up. I wouldn't be too worried if I'm a Clemson fan. They were winning that first half. They really won that first half against LSU. LSU's defense looks much improved. It's kind of a coin flip game. You lose a lot of coin flip games. My only concern is that maybe Clemson is not going to be quite as dominant as a lot of people thought they were. Just because you have returning talent doesn't necessarily mean it's the best talent in the country. But the ACC looks up. So Clemson does, like I was just saying, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a lock anymore to win the ACC. Miami looked a lot better. SMU took care of business. Louisville took care of business. If you watched my college football preview show, I'm pretty high on both of those teams, SMU and Louisville. I thought Virginia played above expectations for week 1. And then Florida State, obviously. I mean, if that's the Florida State team you're going to get week in and week out, they are a legit ACC title contender and a legit playoff contender. A win over Alabama, even if Alabama has a down year at 8-4, right? If that's where Alabama ends up, that is still going to be a huge notch in the belt for Florida State come selection time. Week 2 previews, 2 huge games on the schedule. You know they're huge. We got college game day going out to Norman, Oklahoma for Michigan and Oklahoma. But where we are going to start is where big noon kickoff is headed, and that is to Ames, Iowa for the Cyhawk. The classic battle every year for the state of Iowa between Iowa State and Iowa, and I think we are going to get another great one in this series. We've had a lot of really, really good games in this series as of late. Last year, Iowa State was finally able to break through. Will they be able to do it again? They come in with a ton of momentum. And Iowa comes in with a new quarterback. So Iowa State, right, they beat Kansas State in Dublin, which, Kansas State, what was that against North Dakota last week? Notwithstanding, a big win for Iowa State in Dublin, and then they come back and they took care of business. Unlike Kansas State, right? Iowa State came in and they took care of business. That offense was flying around, making a ton of plays. I think this game, despite Iowa having a new quarterback, is going to be close as it always is in the Cyhawk. Now, this is always one of my favorite games of the year. It is one of those true football is back moments that you get early in the season. The hits are big, the energy is intense, and it's just one of those classic games. It looks great on TV, and it just feels, it is pure college football. No bet from me on a side for this game. I'm going to have to lean with the dog. Whenever you're going to give me points in a tight contest like this between two bitter rivals, I'm almost always going to lean with the dog. Iowa right now is at +3. I think that's fair right now. I think that's actually a pretty accurate line. I do think Iowa State comes in with a ton of momentum, but it's, Matt Campbell was able to break through last year. Iowa kind of helped them out with that a little bit with some mistakes down the stretch. Can he do it again? He's had some struggles in this game, particularly at home. Like I said, I'm not going to have any bet on the side, but I will have one on the total. I think for the second year in a row, this game goes over and the total continues to drop. Right now, we are sitting at 41.5. I do think this game goes over. That Iowa State offense is looking maybe the best it's looked in a while, right? We thought there might be a big drop-off losing those two receivers to the NFL, but Rocco Becht looks like he is rolling right now. And then on the Iowa side, they can still run the ball. And I think their offense didn't really take too much of a step back from last year, and their offense was actually pretty decent last year. They were scoring around 28 points a game. So 41.5, I think both teams can get in that 21 ballpark. Like a 24-21, a 24-20 seems certainly possible, certainly likely, I think, in this game. So we're going to go with the over 41.5. The other big game we're going to take a look at, I mentioned it already, we have Michigan and Oklahoma. So the deal here, I think both schools are seeing much improved quarterback play versus last year, and we saw it on display in Week 1. Yes, they were against inferior opponents, but you can just tell the way the offense is moving. The offense was clicking last week for both of these teams. They look a lot better. Long term, I think Bryce Underwood will end up being better than John Mateer, but when we look at the situation right now, Mateer has so much more experience than Underwood. I think that will carry over into this game. So I'm going to lean Oklahoma here. No bet on the side. I do think Oklahoma wins the game, but 5.5 seems to be the right number. I do have a bet on the total. Like I said, I think both quarterbacks are improved. I think both quarterbacks are going to be able to do some things in this game. The total has dropped now to 45.5. This is an overplay for me. Now, before we get into the best bets, I want to give a shout out to a couple of newer sports books. So I know a lot of you guys already are signed up at your DraftKings, your FanDuels, Fanatics, MGM, etc. So you've already used all of those kind of sign-up bonuses. I've got 2 sign-up bonuses and then one book I just want to highlight because they tend to have really good numbers, and it's always good to have more outs. So first one I'll put up on the screen. You might have heard this one before, but we have Fliff. Code is right here. So with Fliff Sweepstakes Sportsbook, so available in states like California, Texas, Florida if you're looking for another out besides just Hard Rock, it's always better to have more sports books. They are doing a sign-up bonus right now where you will get a 100% price match up to $50. So you put in $50, they will give you $100 to play with, so $50 of free money. They are also doing a week 1 promo bet for Jalen Hurts in the NFL, so literally free money. He has to go over 0.5 yards. Now, they're going to have different limits for different people, but whether it's a $5 limit, $20 limit, $50 limit on that bet that you're getting, it's free money. So it's free money to sign up. They're giving you $50, and then it's free money bet 0.5 yards Jalen Hurts over. So you got to sign up for that. Code is going to be right here on the screen. The next one is Novig. Operates somewhat similarly to Fliff, except there is no real house. You're really betting against each other. So this is what is called a peer-to-peer sports book. And I wanted to highlight them first of these 2 peer-to-peer sports books because they do have a sign-up bonus. So they are trying to get people in the door by offering a similar match that Fliff is. But again, they're not really a casino, so they don't have as much money to just give out, right? But this is a $25 deposit will get you $50. So really, you use these 2 codes, you're going to be getting $75 to play with this weekend by only putting in $75 of your own money. So between the 2 codes, again, you're going to have $75 of your own money in, and then an additional $75 to play with from these 2 books. Novig, I think, also has a $5 just sign-up bonus. So you'll actually get an additional $5. So you'll put in $25 and come out with $80 on Novig. Again, Novig also available in California, Florida, Texas. Available in a lot of other states too, but those are the big ones, right? Because your DraftKings and FanDuels aren't legal there yet, but the sweepstakes style of sports betting is. There's a ton of videos, a ton of information on that if you are looking for more. But yeah, so wanted to shout out Fliff, Novig, and then the last one, Profit X, code here, operates very similarly to Novig. They just don't have a sign-up bonus right now, but they do have a lot of really good odds, especially when you're looking at money lines and when you're looking at those totals. So a lot of books now you're seeing these totals at minus 115, minus 120. That's not going to happen a lot at Novig and ProfitX. Again, because it's peer-to-peer, you're going to see a lot of odds closer to that plus 100, a lot closer to fair, even odds. So with that, let's get into the best bets, starting with totals. So totals are one of my favorite things to play. We are playing overs when the total is under 49, and we are playing unders when the total is over 56. So let's get into it. First one, we already went over. We have Iowa and Iowa State right now listed at 41.5. We are going over on that one. Next up, we have North Texas and Western Michigan. Western Michigan, not a super explosive offense. North Texas has been in the past, though they are replacing Chandler Morris. I mentioned him earlier in the show. Chandler Morris now at Virginia, putting on a show. He put on a big time show last week. That guy can sling it. North Texas is replacing him at quarterback. I expect this game to go under 59.5, which is where it is right now. My projected score has this in the high 40s, maybe can squeak into the low 50s, but yeah, we're looking at 59.5. Next up, we're going to have 2 more unders before we get to that last over. We have Arkansas State and Arkansas. Now, this is one, it's sitting at 62.5 right now, and for the show, I'm going to give this out as play under. I would try to hold out and see if the 62.5 can get to 63 or even 63.5. That is a much better number to have than 62.5. 63, it would be 9 touchdowns with the extra point. Still, though, I think this game gets into the low to mid 50s. I don't think it cracks 62.5, but again, you're so close to getting that football number. I would try to hold out and see if that can go over 63. So we're going under, as of right now, 62.5, Arkansas State and Arkansas. Next up, Missouri State and Marshall. Missouri State new to FBS football. Marshall lost most of their team to Southern Mississippi. This game right now, 57.5. I think this goes under. I think this does not break the mid 40s. And then last but not least, already talked about this game, but I'll just mention it one more time here to wrap up the totals section of the best bets. We're going over on Michigan and Oklahoma. It's at 45.5 right now. I think this game gets at least into the low 50s, if not to the mid to upper 50s. Both quarterbacks are much improved over what we saw last year, and a lot of these early numbers are based off of what we have seen last year. Let's get into some money lines. So the name of the game here is value. We are looking for teams being undervalued in the marketplace. So games that should be closer to even than the sportsbook is indicating. Up first, we have Jacksonville State over Liberty at plus 200. Next, UConn over Syracuse plus 215. One of my personal favorites, Kansas over Missouri, also at plus 200. So right off the rip, we got a couple of big plus 200 dogs here. Next up, we're going to have Fresno State plus 124 over Oregon State. Texas State plus 160 over UTSA. Another one of my favorites this week, Ohio over West Virginia. Ohio was so close to pulling off that outright upset on the road at Rutgers. I think they get it done at home this week as a home dog, plus 142 for Ohio. Big G5 battle here between Western Kentucky and Toledo. I've got Western Kentucky winning this game. They are plus 220 on the money line. Toledo did not have exactly what it takes last week to beat Kentucky. I think they come home and they're going to lose to Western Kentucky too. New Mexico State plus 140 over Tulsa. And last but not least, we have Sam Houston plus 205 over Hawaii. So if you're following along with my plays this week, it's going to be a very long but very fun and hopefully very successful Saturday. We've got plays from the first kick to the last kick, covering over 12 hours of college football awesomeness. Thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe here, as well as follow along on X and on TikTok. Later in the week, as we get closer, I'll be posting more plays if they pop up over on X and also on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So again, make sure you're followed, subscribed, so you get those notifications when those plays come in. That is all from me today, and until next time, remember to bet smart and lift heavy.